my DTM project, and this is the picture of the Human Development Index of 2011. But since it's 2015, it's pretty much the same, so it doesn't really make a difference. So this is the demographic transition model, and this shows the birth rate, death rate, and the total populations of each stage. And basically, each country belongs to a stage, and the stages represent a country's economic status, where stage one is underdeveloped and stage five is like the most developed. And it's said that each country will move on to each stage. So if you go from stage one, you go to stage two. Can't really like retract or anything. Stage five has been through each stage. I will be focusing on stage five, where the total population starts decreasing, as we can see here, and this is because the birth rates are now lower than the death rates. And for example, we're going to be using Portugal, and we can, yeah, so the characteristics of a stage 5 country are low birth rates, death rate is higher than birth rate, population rate is decreasing, total fertility rate is less than or equal to 2.1, high life expectancy, high mean of schooling and expected years of schooling, pro-contraception country, which means like the country is for contraceptive use. High income per person in the country, increased employment of women, very good accommodation, medical care, and water supply, and it's a high developed country. So as we can see, it's pretty nice average accommodation, low birth rate, so one child per woman. Gender equality, is pretty good, equal. There's high life expectancy and schooling is, pretty nice. Nice access to these pretty great supplies, nice environment, equal amount of male and females. This is the population pyramid for Portugal, but relatively the same for all stage 5 countries. But we can see there's high life expectancy where people are starting to live, even up to 94. And this is basically the population pyramid shows the percentage of the people per age, the percentage of people in the population for their age group. These convex sides indicate their low birth rates for these ages, so above 30 and below 65. Um, we can see from this population pyramid that there are low birth rates. These are the HDI indicators of Portugal, the human development. So we can see the birth rate is 7.98, and since 1960, we see it's a pretty drastic decrease. The death rate is 10.549. We can't really predict the direction in which Portugal's death rate is heading, whether it's increasing or decreasing, as it's relatively been the same since 1960. The population is around 10 million, and if we see from here, around 2010, the population started decreasing. That's because Portugal only recently entered a stage 5 country in late 90s, early 2000s, and it takes about a couple generations before we see a drastic drop in population. Fertility rate is 1.25. Life expectancy is pretty steady growth, and it's going to keep growing. Right now it's 81. This is the natural gas production, which is around 4 million. Natural gas consumption around 5 million. But basically, the biggest concerns of a stage 5 country is low birth rates, troubled welfare programs, and dependency ratio, which we will get into that one later. But the causes for these, problems are concerns are the high expenses, so everything's really expensive. The adults working normal hours can only really support, afford for themselves and their partners if they have one, let alone another child, so it's too expensive to have one. Contraceptives are encouraged and accessible to everyone. There's gender equality, so women have plenty of job opportunities, meaning less time to have a child or raise a child. So the problem with the dependency ratio for welfare states, which is pretty much all stage 5 countries, is that population will now has more people under 18 and above 65, and these people are normally categorized under people who can't make their own money and rely on the working class, which is above 18 and under 65. And these people really provide the money for those who can't by like either directly like to their child or indirectly by paying taxes. But when more people start to become over 65, which is what's happening now because of low birth rates, is that those kids will now have to pay higher taxes And higher taxes really equals in a troubled economy because of more expensive and it's unstable. The solutions to these concerns are increasing the retirement age, as people are starting to live for like up to 90 and the average is 81. People don't really have to retire at 65, which is the retirement age now, and people seem capable of working and like relying on their own make to survive. But I'm going to be focusing on two countries' solutions, Russia and Romania. So what Russia did is kind of a reward system, but they also did an immigration where they believe more people would equal more babies, and they're taking in people. But their reward systems is giving $11,000 to mothers who have more than one child. This program they have, and giving families holidays really, and they also have prizes for. There's a day they have September 12th where if 9 months after that date you have a child, you can win money, cars, refrigerators, or other prizes. Romania had a different thing. It's kind of like a threat, or you can see it as a baby encouragement, which is what they like to see it as. But they had no babies equals. This was all enforced in 1966 for a short amount of time, but no babies equals higher taxes. For individuals that were above 25 without a child, they would now have to pay higher taxes, really. The divorce restrictions were made. So in 1967, there was only a maximum of 28 divorces that year. That's pretty crazy because in 1966 they went from 12,000 divorces to this 28. Higher security or police installed in hospitals to make sure there are no illegal abortions. So legal importation of birth control was also halted. Restrictions for abortion, this was in 1980, were made. So regardless of the woman's circumstance, she had to have had 5 children. All those children had to be under her care at the time, or be over 45 to have an abortion. That was the only way they could get it. So, and also during the 80s, interrogation for childless individuals and couples about their sex lives were made to promote it. So these are the birth rates of Russia and Romania that I will use. So my evaluation for Romania is that the methods worked well at first. Because when there are no babies equals higher taxes, divorce restrictions, higher security, and the halt in birth were enforced in 1966, the amount of babies went from 200,000 to 500,000, and this is what we see right here. And also that dropped immediately. We can see this huge drop. This was because they stopped having their police enforced in hospitals, and that's the reason. But then in 1980s, 19 more specifically 1986, we see this increase over here. This is when their new president, or I'm not really sure what he was, came up with the abortion restrictions and the interrogation methods. But here in 1889, this is when it starts decreasing again. This was because the Russians revolted and got rid of, I'm really not sure how to say his name, but shot this guy right here in the revolution of 1989, yes. Um, my evaluation for Russia is that in 2007, when their prizes were giving out to women, like I said before, their births did increase. It seems pretty little, but something is better than nothing. But their programs, like the $11,000 for a woman who have more than one child, are pretty successful, and they also have immigration. Well, they have migration, a lot of that happening as well. And because of that, Russia's population isn't shrinking anymore, and we see this nice stable growth. Well, kind of. This is probably just a little anomaly, and it's pretty good. So their methods have and are working right now as we speak. So yeah, that was my video.